The CFO showed up at my house on a Saturday. No call, no text, just his BMW in my driveway at 7:15 inches the morning, engine still running. He knocked 3 times, fast, like he'd been practicing the whole drive over. "Please," he said when I opened the door, "we need you back by Monday." I was 54 years old, 22 years at Ridgeline Financial, never seen a CFO sweat through a dress shirt on a weekend. "My name is Ray Kessel, and I'm going to tell you how a $14,000 severance check turned into the most expensive mistake that company ever made. 4 weeks earlier, normal Thursday, the kind where nothing's supposed to happen. I was 3 levels deep in a firewall config, tuning the intrusion detection rules I'd written 6 years ago. Custom job. Nobody else touched it, because nobody else understood it. 22 years I'd been building Ridgeline's security architecture, layer by layer, patch by patch. Every server, every switch, every encrypted tunnel between our 12 branch offices ran through infrastructure I designed. $300 million in client assets protected by systems that had my fingerprints on every line of code. My phone buzzed. Meeting request. Conference room D. 15 minutes. From Nathan Cross. Our new CTO. 8 months on the job. 41 years old. Came from some fintech startup that got acquired before it went broke. Had that Silicon Valley energy. Everything was disruption and paradigm shifts and moving fast. Wore sneakers to board meetings. Called everyone brother like we were in a fraternity. Conference room D was the small one. No windows. They used it for terminations. I knew that before I walked in. Nathan was there. HR director, woman named Sheila I'd spoken to maybe twice in 2 decades. And a man in a gray suit I'd never seen. Outside counsel. They always bring outside counsel when they're scared of what they're doing. Ray. Nathan leaned back in his chair. "Thanks for coming in. Didn't have much choice. You sent a calendar invite 12 minutes ago." He smiled. That practice smile. "Listen, brother, we're going through a transformation. Cloud-first strategy. New vendor stack. The board wants us lean and modern. And part of that means we're restructuring the infrastructure team. Restructuring. Your position is being eliminated. Effective 2 weeks from today." 22 years. That's what he was eliminating. 2 decades of institutional knowledge. Every security protocol, every disaster recovery procedure, every custom integration between systems that weren't designed to talk to each other but did because I made them. Sheila slid a folder across the table. Standard separation package. 2 weeks severance per year of service. That's generous for the industry. I didn't open it. Didn't touch it. Just looked at Nathan. "Who's taking over security?" "We're bringing in Fortis Consulting. Full managed services. State of the art." Fortis. I knew them. Sold big contracts. Ran skeleton crews. Their idea of security architecture was a firewall appliance and a prayer. You're replacing 22 years of custom infrastructure with a managed services contract. We're modernizing, Ray, no offense. But some of these systems are legacy. SNMP traps, manual log review. We need automation, AI-driven threat detection. The systems he was calling legacy had stopped 11 intrusion attempts in the past year alone. 0 breaches, 0 data loss, 0 downtime. In financial services, where a single breach means regulatory hell and client exodus. But Nathan had his slideshow, his vendor demos, his disruption narrative. And the board loved that narrative because it came with a lower line item on the budget. I opened the folder, glanced at the numbers. 2 weeks per year. $14,000 after taxes. For 22 years of making sure nobody stole $300 million. "There's a non-compete in there," Sheila said. "Standard 12 months. And a release of claims." I looked at the gray suit. He looked at the table. They always look at the table. "I'll have my attorney review it," I said. Nathan stood up, extended his hand. "No hard feelings, brother. This is just the direction things are going. You built something great here, but the future's in the cloud." Didn't shake his hand. Just picked up the folder and walked out, back at my desk. Inbox full of tickets, alerts, questions from junior staff. The system I'd built was humming along perfectly. Irony thick enough to cut, but here's what Nathan didn't know. What nobody at Ridgeline remembered because it happened before most of them worked there. 14 years ago, we had a near miss. A state-sponsored attack group targeted financial services firms in the Northeast. We were on the list. I spent 3 weeks sleeping in the server room, rebuilding our perimeter defense from scratch. During that crisis, I negotiated something unusual. A clause in my employment agreement, Section 12, Paragraph 4, Subpart B. In the event of termination without cause, the employee shall retain administrative access credentials to all proprietary security systems designed, implemented, or maintained by the employee for a transition period of no less than 180 days, during which the company shall maintain the employee in a paid consulting capacity at the employee's standard rate to ensure continuity of security operations. 180 days, 6 months, paid consulting, at my full rate, before they could lock me out of anything. Legal had pushed back. I pushed harder, told them the alternative was me walking out during the attack and letting the chips fall. They signed. That clause had been sitting in my file for 14 years. 3 HR directors had come and gone since then. Nathan certainly never read it. He was too busy disrupting things to read employment agreements. I called my attorney that night, Frank Del Vecchio, old friend, sharp as they come. They triggered Section 12. I told him. Frank laughed. The one they tried to remove in 2018? The one we wouldn't let them remove. It's still active. I checked. So they owe you 6 months of consulting before they can change a single password. That's right. And they don't know it yet. I spent the next 2 weeks being professional, documented everything I could, answered questions, trained the 2 junior admins who were staying on. Good kids, not their fault. Nathan avoided me, walked the other direction when he saw me in the hallway. Easier to eliminate a position when you don't have to look at the person sitting in it. Last day was a Friday. No party, no cake, no goodbye email. Sheila from HR walked me to the door at 4:45, took my badge, said thank you for your service, like I was being discharged from the military. Drove home, poured bourbon, sat on the back deck watching the sun go down over the trees. Thought about my daughter Abby, junior at Michigan State, engineering major, smart kid. That severance wasn't covering much. Thought about my ex-wife, who'd told me years ago to go private sector, make real money. But I stayed because I was loyal, because Ridgeline felt like mine, because the work mattered. Monday morning, Fortis Consulting showed up. I heard about it from Derek, one of the junior admins. 8 guys in matching polos, rolling cases full of hardware. Nathan gave them the grand tour. By Wednesday, they'd started ripping out my firewall configs, replaced them with their proprietary appliance. A black box. Plug and play, they called it. Derek called me Thursday night. Ray, something's wrong. What? They disabled the intrusion detection system, said it was incompatible with their platform, and they changed the network segmentation. Client data isn't isolated anymore. My stomach dropped. Our client data network had been air-gapped from general operations since I designed the architecture in 2009. That separation was the backbone of our compliance. Remove it, and every piece of sensitive financial data was sitting on the same network as Karen from marketing's laptop. Did you tell Nathan? He said Fortis knows what they're doing. Told me to stop being resistant to change. I hung up. Called Frank. They voided the segmentation. That's a compliance violation. I know. And they haven't activated Section 12 yet. They haven't contacted you at all? Nothing. No consulting engagement. No transition plan. Nothing. Then they're in breach of your agreement, and now they're in breach of about 6 different financial regulations. I know. What do you want to do? I thought about it. Took a sip of bourbon. Nothing yet. Let's see how smart Fortis really is. Didn't have to wait long. 2 weeks after I left, Derek called again. Frantic. The branch office VPN tunnels were dropping. All of them. 12 offices couldn't connect to the central system. Client advisors couldn't access portfolios. Trading desk was frozen. Fortis had overwritten the VPN configurations when they installed their platform. My custom routing tables, the ones that handled failover between primary and backup connections, gone. Replaced with default settings that couldn't handle Ridgeline's network topology. Nathan sent an all-staff email. Minor connectivity issues. Fortis is working on it. Expected resolution by end of day. End of day came and went. Then another day. Advisors were calling clients from personal phones, printing account statements from cash data, running a $300 million financial services firm like it was 1,995. By day 3, clients started calling. Not advisors. Clients. Where's my money? Why can't I see my portfolio? Is my data safe? That last question. That's the one that changes everything in financial services. Frank sent a letter to Ridgeline's general counsel on day 4. Certified mail. Hand-delivered copy to the office. Dear counsel, please be advised that Ray Kessel's employment agreement, specifically Section 12, Paragraph 4, Subpart B, requires a mandatory 180-day paid consulting transition period following termination without cause. This provision has not been honored. Additionally, the removal of proprietary security architecture designed and maintained by Mr. Kessel, without his mandated oversight, may constitute a breach of fiduciary duty regarding client data protection. We request immediate compliance with all contractual obligations and reserve all rights. I didn't hear anything for 2 days. Figured Nathan had tossed it. Told legal it was just a disgruntled employee trying to squeeze money. Standard playbook. Then the breach happened. Thursday, 2:47 a.m. An automated scanning bot found an open port on Ridgeline's network. The port had been protected by my custom firewall rules, the ones Fortis replaced with their black box. The black box that apparently had a default configuration vulnerability published 3 months earlier that nobody at Fortis had patched. The bot got in. Moved laterally across the flat network. No segmentation to stop it. No intrusion detection to flag it. Sat there for 6 hours before anyone noticed. At 8:52 a.m., Ridgeline's SOC dashboard lit up. Anomalous traffic patterns. Unauthorized access to the client data store. Potential exfiltration of personally identifiable information. $300 million in assets. 12,000 client records. Social security numbers. Account details. Transaction histories. Compromised. I found out from Derek. He called me shaking. Ray, we got breached. Bad. How bad? Client data. All of it. They're saying PII exposure. Nathan's locked in a conference room with legal and the Fortis guys. Regulators are being notified. I sat in my kitchen, stared at the wall. This wasn't what I wanted. I'd built those defenses to protect people. Real people with retirement accounts and college funds and mortgage payments. The thought of their data floating around the dark web made me sick. But I didn't do this. Nathan did. Fortis did. They tore down every wall I'd built and replaced it with a screen door. I just wasn't there to stop them. Frank called an hour later. You heard? Yeah. They're going to need you. Bad. I know. The question is what that looks like. What it looks like is Section 12. They should have honored it a month ago. He paused. There's more leverage now. A lot more. I don't want leverage from a data breach. People got hurt. I understand. But the reality is, they violated your agreement, dismantled your security architecture without the required transition, and now they're facing a regulatory nightmare. The breach is their consequence, not yours. Didn't answer right away. Thought about Abby, about the clients, about Nathan's sneakers and his disruption talk. Send them a second letter, I said. Reference Section 12. Offer my services for incident response, my rate, my terms. Make it clear this is a courtesy, not an obligation. Frank drafted it in an hour. This time, Ridgeline's general counsel called back in 40 minutes. The next morning, I was in a conference room with people I hadn't seen in weeks. General counsel, the compliance officer, 2 board members who'd flown in from Boston, and Nathan, sitting in the corner, pale, quiet, the sneakers replaced with dress shoes. Mr. Kessel, general counsel said, "Thank you for coming." I nodded. Didn't make small talk. "We need your help," she said. "Plainly speaking, we're in crisis. The breach has exposed client PII. Regulators are asking questions. Our cyber insurance carrier is threatening to deny coverage because," she paused and looked at Nathan, "because they're alleging the security infrastructure was modified without proper risk assessment or regulatory approval." "Which it was," I said. Silence. One of the board members leaned forward. Old guy, gray hair. The kind of money that makes people speak softly. "Mr. Kessel, we understand there was a contractual obligation that wasn't fulfilled. We'd like to make that right." I looked at him. Making it right would have been honoring Section 12 a month ago. Before Fortis ripped out the security architecture, before client data was compromised, Nathan opened his mouth. "Ray, listen, I didn't know about that clause. If someone had told me..." "Someone did tell you," I said. "Frank Delvecchio's letter, certified mail, hand-delivered. You had it 2 weeks ago." Nathan's jaw tightened. "That was a legal matter." I forwarded it to counsel. General counsel cleared her throat. "We received it. Unfortunately, it was categorized as a routine employment dispute and queued for review." Queued. 14 years of security architecture. Queued. "Here's what I need," I said. Took out a single sheet of paper. Typed. Frank had reviewed it. Printed it that morning. Full back payment of consulting fees from date of termination per Section 12. That's 6 weeks at my contractual rate. Retention engagement for incident response and security rebuild. 6 months minimum. At double my previous rate, given the circumstances. Fortis out. Completely. They don't touch a single system until I've assessed and rebuilt the perimeter. Written acknowledgement from the board that the breach resulted from unauthorized removal of security infrastructure, not from any deficiency in the original design. The dollar amount at the bottom. Back pay plus the retention engagement, $487,000. General counsel studied it. Board members exchanged looks. Nathan stared at his shoes. That's a significant number, the old board member said. Your cyber insurance deductible is $2 million, I said. Regulatory fines for PII exposure in financial services start at $500,000 per incident. Client lawsuits haven't started yet, but they will. Class action. You're looking at 8 figures in liability. Paused. Let that sink in. $487,000 to get the guy who built the system to come back and fix it. That's the bargain of your life. We need to discuss this privately, General Counsel said. You have until end of business today, I replied. After that, my cooperation becomes voluntary, and frankly, I just bought a fishing license. Stood up, walked out, went to the same diner I'd been going to for 22 years. Ordered the usual. Eggs over easy, rye toast, coffee that tasted like coffee, not whatever artisanal nonsense Nathan had installed in the break room. Phone buzzed at 11:15. Frank. They're negotiating internally. CFO's pushing back on the rate. Of course he is. Buzzed again at 1:30. Frank. Board overrode the CFO. They want to accept. With one modification. 5 months instead of 6 on the retention. No, I said. 6. That's what it takes to rebuild properly. Frank relayed it. Came back in 10 minutes. Done. 6 months. Wiring instructions? Same account as always. At 3:47 p.m., my phone pinged. Bank notification. Wire transfer received. First installment. The rest structured monthly. Sat there in my truck in the parking lot for a while. Looked at the number on my screen. Thought about Nathan telling me no hard feelings. Thought about Sheila walking me to the door. Thought about my badge in a box somewhere. Didn't feel like victory. Felt like math. Simple math. You break a contract, the contract breaks back. Monday morning, I walked back into Ridgeline. No badge. They gave me a new one. Visitor pass with a consultant sticker on it. Fine by me. Derek met me at the server room, his face when he saw me. Like a kid whose parent just got home during a thunderstorm. Ray. Man, am I glad to see you. Show me everything, I said. What Fortis had done was worse than I imagined. They hadn't just removed the segmentation. They'd deleted my routing tables, overwritten the firewall rule sets, and disabled the custom logging system I'd spent 4 years building. Every trace of my architecture, gone. Replaced with vendor defaults and hope. The breach entry point was exactly where I would have predicted. The same port I'd flagged in a security audit 2 years ago. The one I'd built 3 layers of custom protection around. All 3 layers removed by Fortis in their first week. Took me 4 days to contain the damage. Rebuilt the network segmentation first. Client data back behind its own perimeter. Then the firewall rules. Then the intrusion detection. Then the VPN tunnels for the branch offices. By Friday, advisors could see their clients' portfolios again. Phones stopped ringing with panicked retirees. The trading desk was operational. Derek stayed late every night with me. Good kid. Learned fast. Asked the right questions. Friday evening, we were the last 2 in the server room. Systems green across the board. First time in weeks. How'd you know? Derek asked. The clause thing. How'd you know they'd need you back? Didn't know they would, I said. Hoped they wouldn't. You work somewhere long enough, you learn something about corporate memory. It's short. People forget who built things. They forget why things work. They just see a line item and think they can do it cheaper, so you protect yourself. Because nobody else will. He nodded. Can I ask you something else? Yeah. Can you put something like that in my contract? I laughed. First real laugh in a month. Talk to Frank. I'll make the introduction. The CFO. Right. He showed up at my house that Saturday morning. BMW in the driveway, shirt soaked through. This was the day after I'd gotten the systems back online. He wasn't there about the systems. He was there because the insurance carrier had sent their assessment. The one that determined Fortis's modifications voided the cyber liability policy, meaning Ridgeline was on the hook for the full cost of the breach. Client notification, credit monitoring for 12,000 people, legal defense, regulatory fines, $7 million, Conservative estimate. The CFO wanted me to write a letter to the insurance carrier, explaining that the original security architecture was sound, that the breach was caused by unauthorized modifications, that the vulnerabilities were introduced after my termination in violation of contractual transition requirements. He needed my credibility, my name, my 22 years of zero breaches. Please, he said, standing on my porch, we need you back by Monday. I looked at him, sipped my coffee. I'll write the letter, I said, after the board formally removes Nathan Cross from any authority over security infrastructure, and after you reinstate the 2 junior admins he was planning to lay off next quarter. He blinked. How did you know about that? Derek told me. And those 2 kids are the future of your security team. You cut them, you're back to square one in 3 years. He agreed, standing right there on my porch, shook on it. Nathan wasn't fired. That would have been too clean, too honest. Instead, they created a new role for him, Vice President of Innovation Strategy. No team, no budget, no authority. A title and an office with a nice view and absolutely nothing to do. Last I heard, he was interviewing at startups, talking about disruption. Some people never learn. The insurance letter worked. Carrier agreed to cover 60% of the breach costs. Ridgeline ate the rest. Expensive lesson, but they survived. I finished my 6-month engagement on a Tuesday. Quiet day, no fanfare, just handed Derek the documentation. 600 pages of architecture diagrams, security protocols, and disaster recovery procedures. Everything I'd kept in my head for 2 decades, now on paper. His contract included the same clause. Section 12. Frank made sure of it. Patricia, the general counsel, walked me out. Different from the first time. No box of personal items. No awkward silence. Just 2 people who understood what had happened and why. Ray, she said at the elevator, for what it's worth, the board reviewed every employment agreement after this. No more eliminating positions without checking contractual obligations first. Good, I said. About time. She paused. You could have let us burn. After what they did to you, nobody would have blamed you. That's not why I built those systems, I said. I built them to protect people, the clients, the employees, even the ones who didn't know I existed. Letting that burn wouldn't have been revenge. It would have been negligence. And I don't do negligence. She nodded, shook my hand, for real this time. Drove home, opened the mail. Letter from Michigan State. Abby made Dean's List. Engineering department. 3rd semester in a row. Called her that night. Dad, she said, Mom told me about the Ridgeline thing, about what happened, the settlement. It wasn't a settlement. It was a contract. Whatever. You're kind of a legend at the cybersecurity club now. Professor showed the case study in class. I laughed. Don't believe everything you read. Did you really negotiate that clause 14 years ago? I did. Why? Because I watched a lot of good people get pushed out before me. Smart people. People who built things that mattered. And when they left, they had nothing. No leverage. No protection. Just a severance check and a thanks for your service. So you planned for it. Planned for the possibility. Hoped I'd never need it. But hope isn't a strategy. Not in security. Not in careers. Not in anything. She was quiet for a second. Then, I'm putting a clause in every contract I ever sign. That's my girl. These days I consult. 3 clients. My schedule, my rate. Home by 4 most days. Fish on weekends. Bought a new rod and reel with the first month's consulting check. Nothing fancy. Just reliable. Abby graduates in May. Already has 2 job offers. Both in cybersecurity. I told her to read every word of the employment agreements. She said she already had. Smart kid. Smarter than me at that age. Derek runs Ridgeline's security team now. Calls me once a month. Updates. Questions. Sometimes just to talk. I don't mind. He reminds me of myself at 30, before the gray hair and the bourbon and the hard lessons. Nathan's startup went under 6 months in. Something about disrupting the insurance industry. Investors pulled out when they found out about his track record at Ridgeline. Funny how that works. Disruption looks different when you're the one getting disrupted. The breach cost Ridgeline $4.7 million total. Fines, legal fees, client remediation, stock dipped 9%, took 18 months to recover, all because they wanted to save money on an IT guy. I think about that sometimes, sitting on my deck, bourbon in hand, watching the sun go down, 22 years of loyalty, and all it took was one guy with an MBA and a vendor slideshow to throw it away. But the contract held. The clause I'd buried in my agreement 14 years ago, the one nobody remembered, the one Nathan never bothered to read. That held. That's not revenge. That's just preparation, meeting opportunity. And the thing about opportunity, it doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't care about your disruption strategy or your cloud-first initiative or your Silicon Valley buzzwords. It just shows up. Usually at 2:47 inches the morning, through an open port that used to be locked. And if you're not ready for it, it'll cost you a lot more than $14,000. Trust me on that.